Hi everybody, Mr. Roloff here. We're going to talk a little bit today about how we classify matter. And in a previous video or in lecture, you should have learned about what matter is. And actually, hopefully you'll learn that it's a lot of things around us. So let's get started. So the first thing we'll look at are pure substances. So there are some guided notes that we suggest that you follow along and fill in. We won't collect those, but it's good to have. Come test time, these are some things that you might want to be adding to your study sheets. So a pure substance is really anything that's made up of only one type of particle. So a key thing here is that all of those particles in the sample are going to be the same, all right? And we can break that down even further. So the first pure substance that we'll look at, you may have seen before, is an element. So an element, key thing is that it can't be separated into anything more simple, into simpler substances, no matter whether that's by physical or by chemical means. And of course, if we have the smallest particle of an element, you may have seen that before, is called an atom. And kind of an interesting little tidbit here, the iron in a frying pan is actually the same as the iron in a meteorite from space. So that atom is exactly the same no matter where it is, whether it's here on Earth or whether it's out in outer space. So another type of pure substance that we can have is called a compound. So a compound is when we take two or more different elements and they're chemically combined. So when we take two or more different elements and we put them together, we get what's called a compound. And a key thing here is that compounds have different physical or chemical properties. So for the example that we have here, we take sodium and we add chlorine to it, and we get sodium chloride. So sodium is something that actually explodes. It actually blows up in water. You'll actually see that in class, in person as a demonstration. Chloride or chlorine gas, maybe you've heard of that before, is actually a poisonous gas. When we take the two and we mix them together, we get salt, which is delicious. And we put on our French fries, and it's really safe to eat. So the key thing here is that when we take these elements that are different and we put them together, we get something totally new with brand new properties to it. And our most simple form, so we said our most simple form of an element is an atom. For a compound, the most simple particle of a compound is a molecule. So here are just some examples of, for example, some pure substances. So a copper atom, right? This would be a simple form of an element here. Maybe you have some copper wire laying around at home. That's an element. That's a pure substance. Bromine here. Bromine is also an element. Even though there's two bromines there, it's still an element and is definitely a pure substance. And then when we look at a compound, like carbon dioxide has carbon and oxygen in it, it's also a pure substance because it's nothing but those carbon and oxygen atoms. So next we'll look at mixtures. So we'll move away from pure substances and look at mixtures. And if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video, rewind, fill in your notes as we're going here. Mixtures are really a combination of two or more substances, but they're not chemically combined. So in the previous example, we looked at how sodium and chlorine come together and they chemically mix together. These are not chemically mixed together. The substances still retain or hold on to their identity. So a good example of this would maybe be like pizza. We can actually see the sausage, we can see the cheese, we can see the tomato sauce. So they don't have a definite ratio, meaning we can have different amounts of the different materials. And we can separate those apart. Like if we go back to that pizza example, I could pick the sausage off, right? If you don't like the sausage on your pizza, you can pick that off. We can physically separate it. But it's not just physically separating them, like picking things out, we could use different methods. We could use a magnet. Say if we wanted to separate, maybe you've seen on YouTube where they separate the iron filings from like cereal. We could filter it. Later in the year, we'll take chalk and we'll make this chalky water, and we're going to separate those two using a filter. We could dilute it, or evaporation. We kind of talked about that during the How Sweet It Is with the Soda Lab, if we wanted to separate the sugar from the water. Or flotation would be another way we could separate a mixture. So these are two key terms that we'll look at in this unit that I highly suggest you write down here. Homogeneous. When you see homogeneous, the word homo, we want you to think of the word same. Okay, so homogeneous looks the same throughout. So when we take a mixture that looks the same, maybe we've taken some salt and we've added it to water. Or a great example of this would maybe be Kool-Aid, right? If you make Kool-Aid at home, all you're doing is you're taking that Kool-Aid packet, you're adding some sugar, you're putting it in water. That Kool-Aid looks the same all the way throughout. That's different from a heterogeneous mixture, right? So in a heterogeneous mixture, that heterogeneous mixture looks different. So our example before of pizza, right? That pizza looks different. I can actually see the sausage. I can see the pepperoni. It's still in there. It's mixed up, but I can actually pick out the different parts of that mixture. Maybe something like chicken noodle soup, right? I can see the noodles. I can see the chicken, the carrots, right? I can see those different parts of the mixture. So here are a couple more examples that are kind of blown up. I like how you can actually see the molecules in here, but in our sugar water, this might be our Kool-Aid, right? It looks the same all the way throughout this water. I can't pick out the sugar. I can't see those sugar molecules floating around in there. When I take sand, silicon dioxide is really just a fancy word for sand, like sand water. I can actually see this sand down here. If I highlight this, here it is right there. There's the sand, right? So I can actually see those separating out. So this graph is something that you might want to add to your study sheet when that time comes. It's great. It has everything really nice and organized. We've talked so far about pure substances. We've talked about mixtures and the different elements, compounds, and then our two mixtures would be homogeneous versus heterogeneous. So just a really nice table that you might want to add to your study sheet. Greetings, Earthling. My name is Folklore. All right, so usually when we're in class, I pretend to be an alien. Folklore, backwards, roll off. Is from outer space, and he doesn't know what an apple looks like or what an apple is. So how might you describe an apple to poor old Folklore there? Well, we would probably describe it using a lot of physical properties. So we might say it's red, right? And it's round, so we might describe the shape. We might say it's kind of in the shape of a sphere. It takes up a certain amount of space, so we might say it has a certain volume that we could actually calculate. An apple, I don't know, smells like an apple. It has a texture that's kind of waxy on the outside. We could even look at a few that you might not be as familiar with. Thermal conductivity, does it transfer heat? Malleability, could I pound that apple into like an apple sheet? Yeah, I suppose it would be pretty malleable. Could I pull it into a wire? Probably wouldn't do very well as a wire. Solubility, does it dissolve in another substance? You think about maybe like salt has a really high solubility. It dissolves really well in water. And then, of course, that apple definitely has mass. It definitely has volume. So it would definitely have a density as well. Some other properties we could check that most people don't think about when we're describing things would be chemical properties. Would my apple, if I throw it in a fire, would it burn? Yeah, it probably would light on fire. Probably not easily, but over time it would. Reactivity with oxygen. Would my apple react with oxygen? Well, imagine if I cut my apple in half and I let it sit on the counter. What's going to happen? It's going to turn brown, right? So yes, that's one of the major things that, our fruits maybe have an issue with, is reacting with the oxygen in the air, rotting, right, and basically kind of turning that brown color. Does it react with an acid? If I were to stick that apple into acid, it definitely would break down. It would kind of rot over time. It would rot even faster than it normally would. And does it react with water? If you've been bobbing for apples, you probably know that it doesn't really react with water. So a couple of changes. So if we wanted to affect like a physical property, if we wanted to change the physical properties of that apple or of that substance, we're really just changing states of it. So, for example, if I were to melt ice, if I take ice and I melt it down, ice is just water, and my result would still just be water, right? If I mix cookie dough batter, now mixing cookie dough batter, what we have to think about is, could I put these back? Could I kind of go backwards? Could I separate these? And the answer, could I go backwards with melting ice? Yes, I could just freeze it again. Could I separate my cookie batter? Well, it would be really difficult. I could maybe heat it up to get the water out, and maybe do some filtration things to get that cookie batter to separate. Could I undo, if you will, the salt dissolving in the water? Yeah, I could heat up the water and separate the water from the salt. So key thing with this physical change is we can actually go backwards and we can undo what we've done. Now that's different from a chemical change. So in a chemical change, we get a totally new substance and it cannot be undone easily. So this, in a chemical change, say we're burning a cornflake, right? Or anytime something gets burnt, it ends up as like something totally new that we can't kind of go backwards. If I take that cookie dough batter and I put it into the oven, well, I really can't now undo that change. So anytime like something gets cooked, we end up with something totally new. So here we'll wrap up here a couple of clues that might help you when we go into lab, that we've seen a chemical change, because we're going to do a lab where you have to figure out, was that a physical change? Could it kind of be undone? Or is it a chemical change? And our clues that there's been a chemical change, we've already talked about these first day of school. Maybe some of these might ring a bell. Odor, energy, color, gas given off, and then precipitate. You will finally see soon in lab. Hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, please talk to your teacher.